Getting a job in the covert intelligence community means navigating a maze of background checks. But before you can ever handle classified secrets, you have to clear a final hurdle: the polygraph machine. For decades, government agencies have treated the polygraph as a definitive scientific tool. They claim it is highly reliable at detecting deception, often pointing to organizations like the American Polygraph Association to back up its use in high-stakes security screening. But look outside those specialized polygraph associations, and the scientific consensus collapses. The National Academy of Sciences, along with numerous independent psychologists, have reviewed the data and found the evidence for the machine's accuracy to be incredibly weak. The machine logs cardiovascular and respiratory activity, physiological markers of fear and stress. These reactions occur in truthful and deceptive subjects alike, making the results indistinguishable from a generalized anxiety response. Despite this lack of scientific backing, intelligence agencies routinely deploy the polygraph without establishing basic privacy safeguards. In many cases, oversight boards fail to conduct mandatory privacy impact assessments before strapping applicants into the machine. When challenged on this, the primary bureaucratic defense is standardization. Government officials argue they are simply aligning their security practices with the Five Eyes Intelligence Alliance. That alignment is a mirage. Of the Five Eyes nations, only the United States relies extensively on the polygraph for security screening. Agencies in other countries have imported the practice without the corresponding international mandate they claim exists. Consent is obtained through one-sided information that overstates the polygraph's accuracy while omitting its risks. This process creates a legal environment where applicants waive their privacy rights without being fully informed of how their most personal data will be utilized. The privacy erosion begins in the pre-interview phase. Examiners, who lack formal medical training, interrogate applicants about their physical and mental health history. They ask about therapy sessions, medications, and lifestyle habits, logging highly intrusive data without any medical justification. This data collection sets the stage for the core psychological mechanism of the exam, a testing format known as the comparison question technique. On one side of the scale are the relevant questions. These are direct, high-stakes inquiries about national security, asking the applicant if they intend to commit espionage or mishandle classified information. On the other side are the comparison questions. These are deliberately broad, covering a lifetime of minor personal flaws, like asking if the applicant has ever lied to a loved one. The examiner uses these questions to intentionally trigger a physiological anxiety response to establish a baseline. The catch is that applicants are instructed to treat every question with equal weight. They are kept entirely in the dark about how the comparison questions are scored differently from the relevant security questions. Believing their clearance depends on absolute transparency, subjects frequently divulge traumatic, intimate details from their past. They mine their own lives for admissions of guilt, simply to calibrate a machine that relies on their anxiety. Because the polygraph relies entirely on measuring physical stress rather than objective truth, the entire apparatus is vulnerable to manipulation. This is a chart showing how a mental countermeasure works in real time.
By visualizing highly calming scenarios during the high-stakes, relevant questions, a subject can artificially suppress their heart rate and breathing, flattening their physiological output. Conversely, when the examiner asks the minor comparison questions, the subject does the opposite. By deliberately recalling painful or traumatic memories, they artificially spike their stress levels. This creates an exaggerated baseline reaction that dwarfs any slight physical response to the actual security questions. Passing this test does not reward an applicant's honesty. It rewards those who can successfully manipulate their physiological stress responses. If an applicant fails to manage their anxiety and the flawed baseline triggers a deception-indicated result, the environment in the room shifts immediately. The examiner drops the neutral tone and pivots to an aggressive, adversarial posture. The examiner presents the erratic inclines as indisputable proof of lying. The burden is instantly placed entirely on the panicked applicant, who is pressured to explain away physical readings they have no actual control over. Under this intense pressure, applicants begin searching their memories for anything that might satisfy the examiner. To explain the machine's readings, subjects offer up hypothetical scenarios, speculate on past mistakes, or volunteer outright false confessions. The session transitions into a coercive psychological interrogation. The priority shifts from objective assessment to the extraction of hypothetical scenarios designed to justify the examiner's interpretation of the data. This leaves a massive repository of irrelevant, highly personal, and sometimes fabricated confessions sitting in government files. Despite consent forms explicitly stating this data will only be used for security clearances, agencies routinely funnel these files directly to human resources suitability assessment panels. Meanwhile, standard, verifiable background checks, like financial records or comprehensive law enforcement inquiries, are frequently underutilized or ignored entirely during the screening process. By sidelining these objective metrics, the agency allows the polygraph to operate as the de facto sole determining factor in whether an applicant gets the job. The agency weaponizes an applicant's psychological profile and private history to reject their employment based on HR suitability, carefully avoiding the need to issue a formal security clearance denial. This bureaucratic maneuvering removes any path to accountability. If an applicant wants to challenge the polygraph's findings, they hit a wall. Even if a review is initiated, the evidence is often missing. Agencies report staggering technical failure rates, with roughly 20% of audiovisual polygraph exams being lost or corrupted, making independent audits impossible. But the most effective shield against oversight is the rejection label itself. By categorizing a polygraph failure as a general human resources suitability issue, the agency prevents the applicant from triggering their legal right to appeal a formal security clearance denial. This administrative loophole deliberately bypasses national oversight bodies, like the National Security and Intelligence Review Agency, keeping the entire process hidden from legal scrutiny. The polygraph functions as an unchecked gatekeeper in the intelligence hiring process. It bypasses constitutional privacy rights through administrative loopholes, remaining insulated from meaningful oversight.